Hi, welcome to my channel, Jen. My name's Genevieve. I'm a chiropractor in the UK West Midlands, and in this video I'm going to be talking about a back stretcher. So if you already have a back stretcher or you're considering buying a back stretcher and you'd like to know how they work, how to use them, most importantly how not to use them, then just keep watching. So back stretchers are really great things to have at home if you are suffering from low back pain. To be honest, even if you don't suffer from low back pain, they're really handy things to have if ever you have a day where you've been travelling a lot, sitting down too much. At Christmas, when I sit down too much, I really like spending some time on one of these to sort of help get my lumbar spine back into its sort of neutral alignment and a lot less tense from all the sitting. These are advertised as being quite good for self-treatment of lower back pain, particularly if you do have a lumbar disc problem like an L4, L5. You can obviously have higher lumbar disc issues, but the most common one will be your sort of L4, L5 discs. And unfortunately, that's where I do see most of the mistakes with the back stretcher. The instructions don't really make it clear how to target like specific parts of your lower back. Most people I just see will just sort of do a reverse sit up and sort of slot this in where it feels sort of like most comfortable in the lower back. But although that might stretch a couple of the segments, it's not likely to be the segments that you actually need to treat. It's probably going to be sort of like your mid lumbar or even your upper lumbar. So hopefully I'm going to help this make a little bit more sense today. I'm going to do a little bit of a demonstration explanation of where to put the back stretcher if you are suffering from an L4, L5 disc problem, and will enable you to get the most out of your back stretcher treatment at home. So the back stretcher is a really good tool to have at home. It is designed to promote neutral alignment and also to allow people to give a gentle but effective self-treatment at home for decompression of the lower back. Now, neutral alignment for the lumbar spine is actually to have an inward curve. So the whole of the spine forms this sort of like lazy S-shaped curve. Now those curves are really important. They enable the spine to optimally absorb shock, to transfer forces from the upper body to the lower body and the lower body to the upper body, and also enables the spine to sort of move optimally as well. So if you do remove the curves, whether that is increasing the curves or decreasing the curves, then you do take away your spine's ability to do those things. You see this quite a lot with the upper back and neck, where people have like upper cross posture and their shoulders round and their neck drops forwards, and then they have to hyperextend their neck. That increases the curve in the neck, and then they can't turn their neck fully. They might get a lot of tension in the neck, might get headaches. That's because you've taken away the neutral alignment of the neck by increasing the curve. Now with the lower back, the main issue is people decreasing the curve. So when people, for example, sit at a desk all day, so 8 hours a day at a desk, maybe half an hour driving to work, half an hour driving home from work, and then sitting in the evening watching TV. As you can see when you sit, the spine will sort of like straighten out. So when you're sitting, you've taken away your lumbar spine's ability to absorb the forces of you just sort of weight bearing in this position. It puts a tremendous amount of strain on the soft tissues, so the muscles, the ligaments and the discs, and that's why people who work at a desk are just as likely to suffer from lower back pain, sprains, strains and disc herniations as someone who has a more active job like working on a construction site or an electrician, someone who does a lot of bending, lifting, twisting. My main issue with the back stretcher is actually that the instructions that come with the back stretcher and a lot of the videos that I've seen of people demonstrating how to use the back stretcher specifically for lower back pain don't make it clear that the effectiveness of the treatment using the back stretcher is dependent on the positioning of the peak of the back stretcher at the specific segment that you're trying to treat. So the instructions and most of the videos will have people sort of sitting with the back stretcher in the small of the back, and then they'll do like a reverse sit-up over the back stretcher, and it does feel like naturally that's where you want the back stretcher to go, sort of slots in to like the majority of your lower back. But as you can see here, the peak of the back stretcher, the highest point, is in the upper lumbar region. Now, although you can get upper lumbar issues, they are not as common as getting lower lumbar issues, sort of like your lower 2, L4, L5 and your L5, S1 segments. Now here is where most of the traction, most of the treatment will be taking place. That opening effect, that decompression effect is taking place at this high point of the stretcher. So if you are wanting to use the back stretcher for lower lumbar issues, which are more susceptible to things like stenosis and disc degeneration, disc herniations, general degenerative changes, you're not going to be getting that treatment if you position the back stretcher as the instructions and the videos are telling you to position the back stretcher. Most of the treatment is taking place at the peak, so that means that if you want to treat your L4, L5 region, then you need the peak to be sort of at the level or maybe slightly above the level that you want to treat specifically for your lower back pain. So it is a little bit difficult to demonstrate with the dry spine, so I'm just going to hop down now and just demonstrate to you how best to get onto the back stretcher if you've got lower back pain, how to get off the back stretcher, most importantly, how to position the back stretcher specifically for lower back pain. Okay, so most people, when they start using the back stretcher, will position themselves like this, and they will have the back stretcher positioned just at the small of the back, and then they will do a reverse sit-up over the back stretcher, and then hopefully the back stretcher is going to be in a good position for you. Unfortunately though, if you do have a lower back problem, particularly a lumbar disc problem, doing a reverse sit-up is one of the worst movements you can do, and that is because when you are in this position, your lumbar spine has flattened again. It's that inward curve is gone, and then you add that sort of increased intra-abdominal pressure from doing that sort of core exercise. When you try to sort of like control the movement, when you try to uncurl yourself over the back stretcher, you are adding a lot of extra intra-abdominal pressure, and that is going to be really uncomfortable, harmful to a lumbar disc. It's one of the worst movements you can do if you do have an acute disc issue, and you'll probably find that doing it this way is very uncomfortable and potentially make your symptoms worse. So I find that a better way to do it is to start with you lying flat on your back with your knees bent, and then do a glute bridge like this. It's easy then to just slot the back stretcher just into position. If you do have a lower back pain, then I'm not going to say this is going to be not uncomfortable at all. There might be some discomfort, but it's certainly going to be less uncomfortable than doing a reverse sit-up, and it's definitely going to be doing less harm to your injured discs if you do it this way. I also like to start with the back stretcher sort of at the side, where you sort of like line up the peak of the back stretcher roughly where you think you want it to go. So obviously, for the purpose of this video, I'm assuming that you've got an L4, L5 problem because it's most common. So I want the peak of the back stretcher to be sort of like lower down, sort of lining up with sort of this position. And then I'm going to do a glute bridge, and then just quickly slot it into position. And then so it's already like, I'm just going to slide it over a little bit. But yeah, this is already in a good position to be feeling that traction lower down the lumbar spine. So I don't know if you can see on the video, but the high point, if you look at across my tummy, is sort of like here, sort of across those pelvic bones. That's where I'm feeling the stretch, and that's where the traction is taking place in my lumbar spine. If I just position the lumbar, the back stretcher just into my lumbar spine, where it kind of naturally feels like it wants to go, it just fits in quite nicely here. I don't know if you can see, hopefully, but actually the high point now is sort of here. Like my ribs are sticking up, I'm feeling a lot of a stretch across the top here. This is like closer to my upper lumbar region. I'm feeling absolutely nothing, sort of L4, L5 region, so I'm not getting any treatment there. So again, it's fine if you do have an upper lumbar problem, but most of you don't, it's lower lumbar. So if you are using it like this, we just kind of slot it in where it naturally feels like it wants to go, then it's not gonna work for you. You do have to position the back stretcher to target specific segments. So I hope you liked this video and found it useful, and that you will now be able to get even more out of using your back stretcher at home. They are really good tools to have at home. They're a nice, gentle but effective way to get some treatment in at home, specifically for decompression of the lower back. Just remember that the effectiveness of the treatment is dependent on where that peak of the back stretcher is. So if you have a lower lumbar L4, L5 issue, then make sure to target that peak of the traction and that opening effect at the segment that you need it to be. It's not going to be the same for everybody, and that's where you'll get most of the effectiveness out of using the back stretcher. If you did like the video, then please give it a massive thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe so that you can see any of my future videos.